Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Biz Meds. We are your hosts. My name is Saad.
And I'm Darris.
Darris, this is the year of doing better, right? What as every year is, right? And one of the things we keep hearing from people is hey, this is a space where there's so many business coaches out there. There's a lot of people that are starting to look at business coaches. And the question we keep getting asked is what makes us different as business coaches? Why should people choose us as business coaches?
Yeah, I mean, which is a valid question.
Absolutely.
And one that we wrestle with constantly. And as you continue the journey, it's really understanding what your unique position is in the market, right? And I think after coaching, considering or identifying as a business coach for so long, it really became apparent that we're actually not so much business coaches, but we're actually neuroscience coaches that help business owners.
Right.
And that's a huge difference. It's a huge differentiator. And the reason for that is really understanding that as the more clients we've worked with and helped, it's less about the specific quote unquote, tools or systems and things like that. And yes, all those things are important. More importantly, it is really around finding out the mindset, helping with the mindset and the neuroscience and psychology of flow. That's actually the largest leverage activity that a business owner can learn. Mm-hmm. Specifically because most of them don't know how to focus, or their attention and focus is spread over so many things. They're just so ineffective. They don't know how to strip that back. And that's kind of a really key differentiator in what we do and how we specialize to help business owners and entrepreneurs, especially even extremely high performing ones. It's how do you then condense timeframes even more, given that, most coaches, whether you're a business coach or fitness coach or things, what they like to do is just pile stuff on. Here, you got to do this and this and this and this. Yeah. And what happens is you get more overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And most business coaches, again, I'm not ragging on anybody or saying somebody's horrible at what they do, but a lot of times what they do is they'll take a framework that they've seen somebody else do and knows that it works, and then just tell you that you should implement this. Oh, hey, while you're doing that, add this one on top too. They work really well together.
Yeah, which is fine. That's an approach because we all start from somewhere. We're all learning, and sometimes you just have to be, a step or two ahead of the person that you're helping. And so I don't have any aversion to that.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out, and what we've learned is that most people just add on to the plate. And so what we're doing is we're increasing cognitive load because, I already don't realize how distracted or how much my attention and focus is spread out and spread too thin, that I have another thing, and that suddenly just increases cognitive load, and that leads to that overwhelm. And I'm feeling overwhelmed because I have all these things to do, and I don't feel I can ever keep up. I can't continue to execute at that level because it's just so much, and so it's overwhelming, and then as a result you really stop and give up.
Absolutely. And that's why most people are looking for business coaches
right.
to help them get out of that blockade, right?
Exactly.
And have a clear vision of where they're trying to go. So adding on more and not understanding as a business coach, not understanding what your client actually needs to identify as the problem is, what differentiates us from these business coaches or other business coaches.
Yeah. And a lot of that really is, it's really about most business owners don't realize how distracted and how much their attention is actually scattered.
Yeah.
And so as a result, they just keep trying to do the same thing, and they think that they need this system. They think, they believe the myth and the lie that, I just need this one system in place. But if you don't realize all the things that you don't need to be doing, or the things that are contributing to cognitive load and overwhelm, and how to strip that away so that you regain that mental horsepower, you will always continue that cycle over and over and over. So you'll ramp up, overwhelm, stop, and then suddenly You might kick it off again, boom, hit the ceiling, back down again, crash, right? And what we want to do, the difference is we're going to strip away all the non-essentials. And because we're neuroscience coaches that help business owners, it's really that the key is learning how to reclaim your attention, your focus, condense time frames by focusing on the most important things that are going to move you forward. And as a result, because you have that clarity, you have that reclaimed mental horsepower, you'll know and you'll be able to figure out which of those most important leverage pieces are going to move you forward faster.
Absolutely, yeah.
But without that ability to kind of reclaim that horsepower and just continually searching for the secret, that the easy button or the silver bullet, you'll never get there.
Yeah.
Or you might find something, but you won't be able to execute it because you're continually running up against that.
And it's going back to your example of the CPU. If your computer is running at 100% and you do find the silver bullet or the coolest, newest software, but your computer is already running at 100%, it's not going to work. The software is just not going to work. And then you're going to, blame the software on how shitty it is and not understanding that you got to close out all of the other processes.
You got to remove all the non-essentials that are just clogging up your processing power.
Exactly.
And everything else.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of the big lie that business owners tell themselves is they convince themselves that they need these things. But what they really need to start doing is learning how to free up their mental horsepower game, because that's the game changer. And the game changer in that is the neuroscience and psychology of flow state and leveraging your own biology that we all have already. Because what we see is there's a lot of business owners out there that they're trying to scale personality.
Yeah.
They try to say, I'm going to, and how we see that play out is in their hiring. And I see it all the time. And actually just had a conversation the other day about this specific thing where, the business owners out there, he's closing deals. He's doing things like, I've hired these 3 really well-paid salespeople because they're supposed to be out there closing deals. And then he's super frustrated because they're not out closing deals. And what he's met with is just a lot of excuses. I don't have a sales process. You're supposed to be a high-performing salesperson. The sales process doesn't really change if you're selling shoes or you're still selling high-end anything.
Yeah.
The sales process is really the same. So, I say all that to say, you end up trying to scale your own personality versus trying to scale and leverage biology.
Right.
And as a result, we try to work within the frameworks that we already have. So we were like, I put an ad out and I've got these people and I think what I have is these great people, but what I don't understand is that they're not the greatest fit.
Right.
Because I'm trying to push them into something that they're not already wanting to go. And so the process has failed because we don't have the bandwidth to really understand what that is, and nor do we have the time and energy to really move that forward. So as a result, because we're dealing with so many other things, that we just accept that because it's good enough. And anyone who's read Jim Collins' Good to Great knows that good is the enemy of great. And that's how that continually shows up. Because things are good enough, they never become great. We never push back because we don't have the bandwidth. We never have enough processing power to go past that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's just many other ways that plays out consistently. But in hiring processes, I see it most, or even a process. Well, it's good enough. And then
it's working.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah. And that's why, we've had conversations like this where you hear of, these people who become ultra successful, and then you hear their story, which is the rags to riches. It's I was a broke plumber. I was only making $27,000 a year, and suddenly I'm a multimillionaire, and I have all these things, and I live in Dubai, and that's great. I believe now it's harder for those who actually have something good. Yeah. To make that jump, because when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So your perception of failure is very different than someone who has, let's say, a relatively good business.
Right.
And so wanting to do things, it's like, oh, well, I can't do that because I will lose these people.
Mm-hmm.
Not really fully understanding that is that's one of your bottlenecks, because you're willing to accept good enough. You won't push too great because your fear or your perceived level of loss and failure will prevent you from acting like that.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is start really diving into the biology and the scaling of biology of flow state, and helping people understand that is actually your most powerful leverage skill, is learning flow state, because you will accomplish so much more of the most important things in a shorter period of time and move your business to great by doing that.
And flow state would be the silver bullet that, helps you do what you're trying to do faster, more efficiently. But you won't be able to utilize flow. To get into flow, you need to eliminate the
because
noise,
one of the biggest flow blockers is distraction.
Bullshit. Bullshit in your mind.
Exactly. All the things, right?
Yeah.
So you have devices like your cell phones and applications and email notifications and all these things that are designed to grab your attention or interrupt you every so often. It's like we're on average distracted like every 11 minutes, but it takes us over 14 minutes to get back to focus. So we live in this perpetual state of being interrupted and distracted without really realizing that we're not doing really focused, high value work, and wondering why, when we look at the math, it's on an average day, you might get an hour worth of, maybe an hour's worth of focus work done in a day.
Right.
And then when you look at the math of when you're in flow state and doing work, like your productivity at a very minimum doubles to quadruples. So like if you did 1 hour of really focused, high performing deep work within flow state, like you're probably going to quadruple. So you could actually do 4 days of work in 1 hour.
Right.
If it's on the right things and you're undistracted, you're not distracted, and you know how to get into deep flow.
I want to break that down a little bit more, mostly because most people that are going to listen, that are listening, they're going to have this ego involved where they're like, oh, I had a 4-hour long meeting that just took like 4 hours, and that was very, very productive. No,
Bullshit.
No, exactly. And even like the tasks that they have, like really, really take time next time you're doing whatever work, and notice how much you actually do versus the 10 minutes of focus and then breaking out and then, getting distracted about something, anything, and then doing another 10 minutes, and like really, really pay attention to that, because I know I've heard it several times from people in person. It's like, there's no way. Like I do a full 8 hours worth of like active work. I'm doing so good. Like I'm getting so many tasks done.
Well, I mean, you might get a lot of tasks done. Are they important tasks? Are they most valuable tasks? Are they most leveraged tasks? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know.
Right.
So that could be.
Yeah.
But most people do not, and we're talking about most people don't actually do that. And if you think about how many meetings we have in the day, we have, different ways. So whether it's whatever chat function, Slack or Teams or whatever it is, you have all these meetings, and then you have your email notifications. You have most people have all of their social media notifications on their phone, people messaging them. If you just look at how many times people are actually being distracted, like that's why I say, and why we see is that people are way more distracted than they actually realize. And then, maybe you disconnect for a week and you're like, oh my God, like that feels amazing because it had no distraction.
Exactly.
And we have lost the ability to focus, which is one of the big differences or the factors in being able to get into flow state. So we have to remove distractions. We have to learn how we're being distracted, how we are wasting our valuable resources of focus and attention.
Yeah.
Before we can even learn how to get into flow.
Right. It's absolutely an art form. honestly. Like
It's
now.
a skill, right?
Yeah.
Just like we talk about grit, learning the skill of grit and being able to have that discipline. It's a skill that we can learn. We have to learn it little by little. It's like any other skill, how you develop it.
Yeah.
So is flow, but also learning how to become less distracted. And as a flow blocker, that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that you call it a skill. And so the reason why I'm calling it an art form now is because, you know, the more people I talk to, the more people I interact with, the more, you know, you see that they've never had control over their attention. And
It's been hijacked.
Yes, exactly.
Like their focus and their attention has been hijacked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about like this new generation. They've never had focus. Like they've never been given that, right?
Exactly. Well, they don't even, like we're of a different.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and that's why the more I think about it, the more I was like, well, it's an art form that is something that needs to be preserved and taught to people. And, you know, we know how to do this. We know how to teach people how to do it.
Which is why we now identify as neuroscience coaches that help business owners. Right, because that's the genesis, that's the real catalyst for really making things happen. And I know that because I remember when I first started like one of my coaching organizations in Houston, and I had an office, I would go there and I would delude myself to believing I was working so hard, and yet I was fucking around on Facebook. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing really focused work. I'm like pretending to to look up and see what businesses are around and who I can like contact and do busy work of, okay, I'm going to create this. I have my, my whiteboard and I'm going to draw out and I'm going to come up with elaborate things of what versus the do, but I'm so distracted, I don't even realize it. And, here I am thinking I'm a really great business coach. I have some clients and whatever it is, and you're helping them, but you don't even realize, like, you don't even know what you don't know. You're living in that whole world of I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And that is the perpetual systemic myth and issue that people don't like. That is our current pandemic, is that we've lost the ability to truly focus and do very leveraged high value work.
Right.
Because we've been conditioned, hijacked, all those things that go into and not really knowing that that's happening, because we've never been taught and we don't really know how to do that. And the people that are really successful are the ones that know how to leverage that grit, know how to control, have self-control, put off the initial dopamine for future recognition and reward.
Yeah.
And we're all about the dopamine now. And if you don't believe that, there's a great book called Dopamine Nation. And that's a fantastic view into why, our dopamine centers and why we're continually geared that. And most of the people growing up now, grew up on devices, which are very high dopamine hitting things. Yeah. And so they don't even know, like, and we live in
they just don't know any different.
Yeah, they don't know different, right? Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, you wonder why people have a hard time, delaying gratification.
Yeah,
it's because they've never known, because all they've known is instant gratification through things.
Yeah.
And over time, those of us who grew up in the time of, phones that were mounted to a wall with long cords, you had to dial, and there were operators back then. We even have forgotten what that's like, because we've been now conditioned by all new technology. Yeah. That's why it's such a lost art form. And so it's the neuroscience and the psychology and the biology that's actually more important now than it ever has been before.
Yeah.
And being able to reclaim that first and foremost. Right. Well, then guess what? Then you have all that horsepower and mental energy to figuring out what are the key things inside your business that you need to move forward.
Yeah, we as humans are meant to be active creatures. We're meant to be like doing things that,
challenge us.
Yeah, challenges, have meaning, give us purpose, right? Like, and this this pandemic of lost attention and not having control over your focus is something very, very scary.
Yeah.
Because most people, they just don't. It's like the 4 quadrants you talk about is like what you know.
Oh, what you don't know what you don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And then you know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Then you
know what you know.
Yeah. You know, and then you just know and do.
Yeah. 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 Or is it that you know you don't know? Anyway, it's like we could.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the reason why I'm touching on that again is because like I personally just find so much more gratification when I'm like working on something that gives me the longer lasting. You actually shared a clip, and I'm trying to piece both of my thoughts and that together in the same sentence, is where like Sean Ryan was talking about how most people want something that they think is unattainable,
mm-hmm.
and the unattainable seems like it's value, but value is actually the journey you take to get something that is more meaningful.
Oh, that was Chris Wills.
Chris, yes.
Yeah. And he was talking about his time with Joe Rogan.
Yes.
And I can't remember, it was the value conflation, I think it was, where we see things that are difficult to attain and we assign value to them. Like you see someone with a nice watch or a nice car or a beautiful girlfriend or spouse, and we equate the idea that something that is of value, that's valuable. Right. And then we attain that thing and we're like, oh, that was just difficult to obtain versus what's truly valuable,
right?
Is the journey and the experience and the learning,
the knowledge,
and the knowledge exactly, and that you actually acquire. Yeah. And so just because something is difficult to attain does not mean it's actually valuable. Mm-hmm. But that's a really cool framework when you think about it. Like, how many things are we actually trying to focus on that we think is valuable, but it's actually just difficult to attain? Mm-hmm. And we need to realign on what we think is valuable or what we should be assessing as valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And the reason why I was drawing the line is because, most people, because they don't have control over their attention, they don't understand like what it is that they're working towards, or what is the valuable. Is it the immediate dopamine hit, or maybe like you work on something that gives you that meaning, and then you get the dopamine hit,
right?
Like it's just,
or you've just been so tapped out, you continue to believe that everything is important, and as a result, nothing is important because you're just spread so thin. And that again reinforces the stance that we are, the difference in what we do is because we address the biology, the neuroscience, psychology of it. That's actually more important because that actually frees you up in the most important ways to tackle what makes you different and the value you bring to the world.
Yeah.
And that is the difference. That's the key difference, is that we're going to help you scale your biology and those that you bring along the way so that you're way more powerful and you're achieving way more than most people will ever do. But it starts there. And I love Andy Frisella. I mean, if you haven't listened to Andy Frisella and his Real as Fuck, Real AF podcast, you need to do that. Because he is a great dose of reality. And that, I think, is the difference when people are innately know how to focus and do that. And that is a loss. I think because there's people that are just innately wired to do that, when they talk about things, it's very oversimplified. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, and I say that because I love Andy Frisella. He's got a lot of great messaging. There's not really a lot that I disagree with him on, because he's like, listen, man, you got to go fucking do. You got to listen to people that have been there and done that. And that's why I think this is the most important thing, is because this is the one key thing that we've figured out is, again, we go back. We didn't discover flow state, right? But we did figure out the magic thing is how to leverage that state, how to start to reclaim your most valuable assets of time, attention, and focus, and layer in the ability that everyone has but doesn't know really innately how to get into is flow state and leverage your dramatic output increase for that, but focusing on the right things to actually move yourself forward. And that's the key, right? Because if you're innately wired and you already know, like Alex Hormozi, like when he talks about, you don't need, I'm probably misstating this, and so I apologize if that's what I'm doing. But the sentiment is, most people don't need a psychiatrist or go to therapy, right? And I would say, probably there's a lot of people do, because there's a lot of stuff that's anchoring you back. And if you aren't someone that knows how to just maneuver around that situation and allow it to hold you, you still have to deal with that stuff. You have to learn how to move forward, but you also have to remove the weights that are holding you back and start to cut the lines that are holding, so you can start to gain more and more momentum.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a friend who, anytime something happens, something that he is not anticipating, let's say something bad happens, right? He associates that memory going forward for anything. For example, if you're having pizza and the cheese was, expired, and it was rotten or whatever, and like next time he's going for pizza, he's like, oh no, I can't do this again. Like the pizza's bad, right? Yeah. And even if it's like the top quality pizza. So the reason why I'm making that correlation is because most people, they will not know how to deal with that, and they need that guidance and the walkthrough. So to Alex Hormozi's point, like I understand that some people are just, they've experienced certain things and they've been able to maneuver them around in their lives, where they know how to walk themselves out of or get themselves away from the cliff. But certain people, they've never had the ability or had the experience to get them out of it.
Exactly. They're not innately wired like that, and they don't have the awareness. It's that whole, you don't know what you don't know. But as you give someone the skill and the tools to be able to do that, then they learn, oh my goodness, like I can now move so much faster to do that. And there will be the people that will just never learn. That's fine. We're not worried. Like that's not what I'm worried about. But for the people that do need this skill, like it is the skill that you need to learn. It is the thing that really unlocks everything else in your business, because you really need to dial in your ability to focus and get your attention on the right things and scale your biology to be able to do that. So that, I think, is the whole kind of idea of why it's so important that we've moved away from, quote unquote, business coach. It's really a neuroscience coach that helps business owners because of that, because that part is so immensely important and different and solves the real root cause versus thinking I need all these little magic buttons.
So there you go, guys. That's your answer. Why are we different? We're not business coaches. We are neuroscience business coaches.
Absolutely. So everyone, we're going to wrap it up. We thank you for joining us. If you're new, we're Biz Meds. I'm Darris.
My name's Saad.
And we're here to give you the medication for your business, or the minimum effective dose, to help you in your business. And if you haven't already, sign up below for the free 60-minute masterclass. It's going to help you strip away all the things that are not helping you grow and are taking up that valuable attention, time, and focus in your life, and help you get back on track so you can learn how to get into flow state. And if you've been with us for the start, guess what? You should be registered for that course. So register right now. So we look forward. But also thank you for all those who've been along the journey. We continue to be here and want to serve you the best we can. So we love hearing from you. My mom, thank you. Love you. Saad's mom, love you. Thank you. And for everyone else, thank you for being part of the journey. And we will see you in the next episode, because you are only one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We'll see you next time.